Guys, welcome back to RHR Jen. I'm so glad you're here today. I am so excited to have a special guest here in I haven't really named it, the Goose House with me. I don't know, go with it. I have John Witherspoon, attorney from DC area, here to talk the nonsense that is with Love Meghan. You have to say it like that, John. We're here to break it all down and talk about it, but welcome to the show, John.
Thank you, Jen. Very nice to be here. Appreciate the chance to speak with you.
Yeah.
And it looks like we've both. I'm looking at our respective, very, very, very light colored clothing, and I'm guessing that we both have been hard at work in the kitchen, probably working on some pasta sauce.
That's it.
And I've even got a yellow shirt on underneath, so in case the pasta soaks through the fleece, I have a nice yellow shirt to catch the stain underneath.
I like that you're going out of your way to point out that it's yellow, because off mic I asked you, is that beige? John, is it beige?
And I'm still recovering from that. I was hurt, deeply hurt. How dare you?
You could write a letter. You could have 5 of your friends write a letter like Meghan's did, right? To what, People Magazine or something?
Yeah. Right. Right. I'll just blanket the state of Florida with hate mail for RHR Jen, and some of it will, I'm sure some of it will get to you.
Some of it will get to me. That's right. Well, that's a great plan. That's a great use of your time. Almost as good as putting like dried flowers on things and dehydrating citrus and stuff, right?
Yes, exactly. I'm good. By the way, I'm good at dehydrating citrus. The other day, I cut an orange in half and I left it out on the deck. And after 3 or 4 days, I went back and sure enough, it was dehydrated.
Okay. Well, it's funny you say that, because in one of the episodes, she makes sun tea and talks about this is something she did as a child, letting it sit out in the sun and just watching it. She did this too, watching it, waiting to turn. And now Archie apparently does the same thing. No, he doesn't. No, he doesn't. She says he does. No, he doesn't. Does this bring back childhood memories for you as well, John?
It does not.
Okay. I like how matter-of-factly you said that. Okay, fair enough. Well, that leads me into my question for you, John. Have you watched some With Love Meghan? I apologize. I have to say it like that. Have you watched any of it?
I have watched some of it.
Okay.
I did struggle through it. I am so grateful, by the way, to you and to all the other creators on YouTube who have picked out the most compelling highlights. The pretzel, the magic pretzel pouring, transfer of pretzels. That was, I had to go lie down after I saw that. I felt weak and I felt overwhelmed by the magnitude of that. I don't even know what to call it.
Unbelievable. Well, next time
thank God this is not being shot on film. Can you imagine this? The film is expensive.
That's
and if you put it on an SD card, like I'm sure that they did, or put it on a hard drive, at least it's not destroying expensive film.
Yes, that's true. But yeah, it's just good things to keep in mind next time you have a guest to your home. They might say, this is too daunting, the big bag of pretzels. They might need a little bag of pretzels. I got to give a shout out to Revealing the Narc, who had such a good observation on that. It was like, if I'm a guest in your home and you're sending me to my room with bath stuff and snacks, I'm thinking you don't want me in your living room or something.
Or God forbid, your kitchen.
Yeah.
Don't come to the kitchen. Don't come to the kitchen table.
Yeah, exactly. You don't want to visit with me at all. You want me to lock myself away in the room. Might as well put sleeping pills in that bag or something.
Right. And wasn't there an Ernie and Bert episode on Sesame Street where one of them gets upset I think it's Bert gets upset at Ernie because he's eating cookies in bed?
I believe you're correct. Yeah.
Didn't we all learn our lesson from that? That you should not eat crumbly stuff anywhere near the bedroom because you'll not to say nothing of bugs that might get or bugs or rodents or who knows what else, vermin will invade the bedroom. But like I think the problem in that skit was that they got itchy or something like that and caused a problem.
I would say
Now,
right now you sound more like Bert and I sound more like Ernie, but I think you're right, Bert.
thank you, thank you. You can be. I thought you were Kermit when you got your Kermit face on.
It's not my face. I do this with my voice when I get frustrated. I talk through
Yeah,
my
right.
teeth.
See, there it is. There it is.
I say like this, like, can you believe she's making me?
Yes, yes.
It's not easy being green, John.
It's not easy
Oh,
being beige either,
that's
apparently.
right. Well, you would know. You're basically wearing it today.
Yes. I need to work on. Sorry, the white balance was off on my lighting. So if you want to accuse me of wearing beige,
Well, if you had 30 more lamps, John, you might.
yeah, like I don't. Yeah, I've heard of people that kind of go overboard on the lighting. But anyway,
Nice. But no, we did not plan this. We both showed up in white, and I was like, what the hell? They're going to think we dressed alike. And you had such a funny quip about that. We look like we've been cooking. You're right. I
right.
love to make. I love to make pasta sauce and white shirts, and you can't see below, but I'm actually in beige linen pants. That's what I like to cook in.
Yeah, and before I made the pasta sauce, I was out wearing this, fooling with my. I was talking to my neighborhood beekeeper, and
Oh yeah,
he invited me to deal with some bees wearing a perfectly, hospital grade white, article of clothing. So,
absolutely.
like some other people that we've seen,
Uh-huh.
um, not the local beekeeper, but the local beekeeper's visitor
That's
who
right.
has long dark hair, as we know, who had the most pristine looking beekeeping outfit on that the world has ever seen.
Exactly. And even with her beekeeping mask, managed to go like this to the camera, like Rick Discrin, excuse me, to the camera. I just thought that was wild. Yeah, that was like the first few minutes of the show, just holding on to her mask, like looking at the camera, framing her face. I'm like, wow, we're off to a good start.
And I'll tell you something funny. If I don't know how many people are on the watching the video who are Star Trek fans, but in the Star Trek original series, there is an episode called the Tholian Web,
Uh-huh.
where Kirk and Spock put on these spacesuits and do what they do on Star Trek. And um,
Is that Star Trek? I think. Yeah.
very good, very nice, very nicely done. And anyway, the spacesuits that Kirk and Spock wear, and you can, I mean, guarantee you, if you Google it, if you Google Star Trek original series, the Tholian Web, and you look at the pictures, I guarantee you, one of the first pictures that comes up will be of Kirk and or Spock wearing one of those spacesuits. They look exactly like Meghan did when she's in her beekeeper outfit.
I'm
It's hilarious.
time-stamping this, and I will add in the spacesuit. I'll drop in an image of it right here. Spacesuit. Okay. Yep, that's fun. Yeah, that's
And that's
amazing.
all I could. When I saw her in that getup, I just thought, this is just too much.
And notice everybody else around her, excuse me, has on the beekeeping pants as well, not Megan. She has to show those would be too big on her, like too not form fitting. She likes to show that she has teeny tiny legs. So she wears
Yeah,
tight
yeah,
jeans.
yeah. Right, right, right. By the
And
way, what is the purpose of the bee suit? Is it to protect Megan, or is it to
yeah.
protect the bees?
Yes.
I heard that the bees had voted to form a union, and they had joined the Teamsters and gone on strike
That's good.
after they figured out what was going on. They were so embarrassed.
That's right. That's right. I have a
Pity the bees.
that's right. I have a friend who's a chef, and I've been talking to him just behind the scenes about everything she's getting wrong. And I don't want to spoil, I don't want to step on his toes. I'll let him explain it. But he's already made me very aware that everything about that was so wrong, the way she handled the bees and just scraping it. You're wasting and you're getting the wrong parts and doing the wrong thing. So I'm fascinated by it. I don't know anything about Unlike Megan, I don't have a bee situation behind my house that I can just go harvest honey from.
You don't
So
have a
I
local
need to buy it
you don't
from
have a local
Publix.
beekeeper near you?
I guess not. I'm doing it all right. I just go to Publix when I need honey. I don't
Yeah. Yeah.
know.
Well, you're a normie. You're a little person.
I
You're
am.
you're not qualified.
I
You
guess
probably
not.
shouldn't even be eating honey because you didn't earn it.
Which leads me to my next question, John. How often do you find yourself putting dried flowers on things that you're eating or working on in the kitchen? God. Wait,
Do I
what
I
makes
mean,
that for you with go
oh, that's a
ahead.
multi-part question, a multifaceted question.
Yeah.
Number one is, I mean, look, I'm a guy, okay? What does it do for the taste? Is it
They
is
asked
it
for that. Sorry, go ahead,
is it hot sauce? Is it barbecue sauce? Is it like, is it is it like the difference between Memphis barbecue or North Carolina barbecue or Virginia barbecue or all of this stuff? I mean, if it's not going to affect the taste, does anybody really care? I you know, I think I've told you this before. I was invited to a event about a month ago,
Mhm.
and it was a dinner event, and it was really nice. And it was when I say a dinner event, it was like in a large room. I mean, there were hundreds of people there, and it was like the tables of 10 type of an event.
Oh, yeah. Uh-huh.
And the host emailed me and said, "Do you have any special dietary needs?"
Uh-huh.
And I wrote back and I said, "If somebody wants to warm up food and slide it in front of me, I am usually really thrilled."
Uh-huh.
I couldn't care less. I know some people do, and I'm not
Right.
making fun of the people who have, lactose intolerance or what. I get it, okay?
Uh-huh.
But at the same time, it's like, if somebody's going to cook me dinner
Mhm.
and give it to me and say, "Here, enjoy it. I hope you like it."
Mhm.
I'm totally satisfied with that, and I think most people are.
Yeah.
And it's not even just so much a guy thing. It's like, look, if somebody's going to do something for me. So having dried flowers on my food or edible flowers or in my ice cubes,
Mhm.
eh, again, if I'm that's the kind of thing that I would expect. Like if I took a cruise I was watching a video, there's a wonderful YouTuber named Emma Cruises, and she just did a video she did a New York to I think Southampton cruise on the Queen Mary 2, and she talked about the food and all the effort that went into it. And like it's the equivalent of being in a really really nice hotel or a resort when they um, wind up the washcloth and the bath towel and they turn it into a dove or something like you know what I mean. It,
Yes.
that's the category that I put dried flowers in. It is not something I would ever expect to see in somebody's home.
Mhm.
Again, the or on the Queen Mary 2, or I'm sorry, I would expect to see it maybe on the Queen Mary 2 or at the Four
Sure.
Seasons Hotel or whatever,
Mhm.
but not just in somebody's house. I'd be like, okay, it doesn't really do anything for me.
Exactly.
It's kind of overboard. Does it change the taste? Like I said, with a different kind of a barbecue sauce from a different place.
Right.
Um, it just seems like a ridiculous amount of make unnecessarily complicated make work. To
Yeah.
say nothing of, she doesn't say anything about what do you do with the mess
Yeah. Yeah. True.
after all of this cooking. I
Uh-huh.
think it's a little bit disingenuous in certain ways to
Uh-huh.
not even speak about how in the world did all this stuff get set up?
Uh-huh.
Who's going to tear all this stuff down? You're going
Yeah.
to need a front end loader or a backhoe to clean that kitchen out of all the excess food waste, all
Mhm.
the stuff that's sitting in bowls and on racks and everything else. And I had to laugh. I was watching another video where somebody was commenting she had the most perfectly and precisely curated refrigerator that the world has ever seen. It would be like if Better Homes and Gardens, if Architectural Digest opened her refrigerator, and that's what you would expect to see, where all the bottles of beer are perfectly lined up. And there's, it's like I've never seen a refrigerator that looks like that in my entire life. I guarantee you, nobody's refrigerator looks like that.
Yeah, no.
So again, the level of disconnect,
Yeah.
the refrigerator curation, and the dried flowers and the flowers in the ice cubes, it's just not believable. It
You're
really
exactly
isn't.
right. I think so too.
Yeah.
Something that you and I had talked about, and it's something I've been very vocal about in my videos, and I'm looking at my phone because I have my notes in here, but the theme that I pick up the most, and my overall thesis for all this, is I think she makes up problems and then she makes up solutions to things that aren't actually problems. So you just have kind of what you're saying, all this excess, all this extra work, all this extra nonsense, things that we don't need, like dried flowers. I'm with you. If I go to a fancy restaurant, sure, I like a garnish on a plate. That's great. Let's make it pretty. But at somebody's home, John, if you invite me over for lunch, I would be like, what?
Well, and that's a great
over.
example. Like, if you're at a restaurant and, they come around with the giant, the 3-foot long salt and pepper, do you,
Yeah.
or the cheese, do you want, how much grated cheese do you want on your Caesar salad?
Right.
And I'm like, where is the little shaker doodad with the top on it that you can, the green can from Kraft that has the grated cheese in it? It's like, okay, yeah, I'll have some of that. Do you have, I'll take you're I think spot on by that last comment that you made about inventing problems and then inventing solutions. I would kick that up one notch and say inventing problems, becoming a victim of said problems, and then allegedly saving the world by allegedly finding solutions to said problems. That's exactly, I think, what we saw when they sat down for the CBS Sunday Morning interview with Jane Pauley, and they were talking about the web is a the internet is a horrible and dangerous place. And I'm not discounting that.
Sure.
But it's not
That's not
incumbent.
what they're doing, though. Yeah.
No, it's not. It's not. And it's not incumbent on them to save the world in that way. It's
No.
really not, especially given the level, the type of reception that they normally get from the general public. Lest we forget, and people can go to Ranker. I haven't been on Ranker recently and seen exactly where they shake out relative to the other well-loved people of the world right now, like P. Diddy and Ellen DeGeneres and whoever else is up there, not Blake Lively. I actually should go on there and see where Blake Lively. Maybe
I'd be curious.
Yeah, she may have knocked Meghan off the perch, but
Probably
anyway,
not. Still Meghan the worst.
yeah, you see people's level of popularity and their level of influence, and you're like, why in the world would I want to emulate this person or take this person's ideas in any way, shape, or form, whether it has to do with, again, protecting children from the internet or putting flowers in ice cubes and decanting pretzels, and of course writing a note on there because somebody might have a peanut butter allergy. Come on. It's so much fabricated difficulty.
Yeah.
It's a problem that it may or may not need to be solved, and if it does need to be solved, it's not going to be solved by Meghan Markle and Harry.
You're exactly right. Therein lies their whole personality. Absolutely. And it's interesting that you bring up about the child safety thing, because in promoting this thing, literally last night, I don't know when this is going up, but we're filming this on Friday. Last night, I sat down with Dylan from Winning Communication. We did a video on her latest Instagram post where she's using those kids to merch to sell this show basically. So she
Yeah.
keeps trotting out the kids. So I think it's funny that she's beating this drum of online safety, but it's okay if she uses them to merch things that will benefit her. There's just so many layers of hypocrisy always with those two.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and to say nothing, and we've talked about this before, to say nothing of what about the basic stuff that most people would want to promote, such as avoiding drug use. Well, that's a little inconvenient given some of Harry's past statements about his own conduct. What about avoiding alcohol while you're driving a motor vehicle? What about wearing a seatbelt in a motor vehicle? All of these are like total teed up home runs, waiting for the two of them to say something. And even I have to say, I hope I'm not the only one. When she started talking about bath salts,
Oh, I know. I had the
that
same thought.
that's a serious problem that a lot of people don't understand. That's a major bath salts can be a major health issue, and I won't go into all the details because I don't want YouTube to get upset. But
Yeah. I
you can
found it interesting that she would right off that was the first episode she talked about that. Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
it's again, it's just you can't make this stuff up. You really can't.
You're exactly right. So you and I have been in conversation, and again, forgive me for looking down at my phone. It's because I have notes of things. You've said some pretty profound things as you've been watching, and I've been
Oh,
watching. We talked about this. So
you're
I kind of
kind. You're kind. Thank you.
I just made some notes. So I thought maybe we could hit some of these and kind of talk
Yeah.
this out a little bit if you don't mind. So
Yeah.
one of the I mean where to even start? Let's start with one of my personal faves. And by that, I mean, it's not that I love it, it's that I like to get you talking about it.
Okay.
And that is the fruit rainbow. And while you do, I believe I have a picture. I'll get that teed up for us. But can you tell us your thoughts on the fruit fruit rainbow? Which episode was that? Was that episode? I think that was episode 2. Tell us about the fruit rainbow. Let's see if I can find it real quick. Tell us about the fruit rainbow. What are your thoughts on this?
Well, where to begin? I mean, use of a wooden cutting board, which is generally frowned upon, except for things like, cheese and so forth. It's because if anybody's still using a wooden cutting board, I recommend that you go on Amazon and find yourself a plastic cutting board approved by NSF or whatever governing body is relevant in your country, where you don't have the opportunity to have bacteria grow in the cutting board. It's especially bad if you're cutting meat on a wooden cutting board. Please stop that right away. It's one thing to display food on a wooden cutting board. It's another thing entirely to actually cut on a wooden cutting board. Anyway, she put this thing together, and I mean, I can't take credit for some of these observations, but I think they're still all valid and worth repeating. This business of cutting up raspberries and blueberries.
I know.
Honestly. And
Yeah.
who has time for this?
I
Who has time for this? And who cares? Who cares? I had blueberries with my breakfast this morning. The last thing on my mind was, oh my gosh, they're not cut.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I do.
So the absurdity of that. And then the real kicker was, wait a minute, hold it. I can kick this up a notch. Let me get a little plate, the size of a saucer from a coffee cup, and I will repeat the process, like Houdini or something, and I'm going to do the same thing except in miniature.
Yep, exactly.
And again, it's like, this is so embarrassing. It is
Yeah.
genuinely embarrassing. The secondhand cringe
Yeah.
is so incredible.
Absolutely. I totally agree.
I hear this over and over and over from people, to say nothing of, again, go to a really nice hotel, and you stay on the concierge level, and you go down the hall for breakfast.
Mhm.
They don't have stuff arranged like this. The chef has got other stuff. They put out a bucket. If you want to elevate the kiwi or the raspberries, you take it out of a plastic bucket and you put it in some nice piece of tableware,
Uh-huh.
and then you put a nice spoon in it. But to me, that's elevating. It's like, oh, somebody was a little bit creative with this and thoughtful, but not to sit there and,
Yeah, absolutely.
like you're dealing cards at a poker table, or you know what I mean? And you're laying the little slices of kiwi out on. I mean, the same thing. She did the same thing when she took the cookie cutter and cut into the bread, and then made a
Gorgeous.
star, and then
Yes.
she put the cucumbers on it.
Yes.
Again, like she's dealing playing cards at
Right.
Las Vegas, I mean, just.
Well, it goes back to everything's about looks, not actual practicality or how eh, eh, normal
Well,
people would work.
the word you're searching for is substance.
Yeah, there you go, substance, that's
There's
right.
it's substance, and as again we've talked offline about this. Everything she does in this series is like a mom trick from a
Mhm.
birthday party.
Yeah.
And the example that I've given you several times is, I remember when I was a little kid, my mom would blow up balloons, and I would help, just being there to help blow up the balloons. We're going to have balloons today. This is a neat, unusual
Mhm.
thing that we're going to do. I don't need a $20 pump, and I don't need this and that and all
Right.
these accoutrements. We're going to have balloons. And you know what we're going to do to really make it fun? Once we've blown up the balloons, we're going to rub them 3 or 4 times on the carpet, and then we're going to stick them up to the ceiling, because the static electricity from the carpet on the balloon is going to make the balloon stick to the ceiling. And then, I mean, even again, as a 6-year-old or an 8-year-old, every morning when you get up, how many balloons are still stuck to the ceiling in the dining room? Oh,
Right.
look, one's about to fall. It's like in The Office. Remember in The Office when they have the balloon in the warehouse,
Yes.
and they go through this whole production? I mean, that is actually, for a little kid, that's fun. I don't
Yeah.
care if my fruit is arranged in the shape of a rainbow.
Right, absolutely. Yeah, I was talking to my other mom friend. I have a Gosling and my other mom friends, and we're like, my Gosling would be like, "I'm starving. Where's my breakfast?"
Yes,
"What are you
yes.
doing?"
What's wrong with, yeah, what's wrong? What are you doing?
Yeah, exactly.
What are you doing, Mom?
I'd spend
Why
2
is this
hours
taking.
making a rainbow, and she did spend 2 seconds. You know?
Right, and that's assuming that the rainbow doesn't end up on the floor somewhere between the kitchen counter and the table. Again,
Exactly.
it's like these are the mom, like,
Yeah.
and you're gonna carry that tray of fruit. It's like, nobody sneeze. Nobody, you know,
Exactly.
no. I need complete silence to
Yeah.
concentrate on moving this tray of.
Right.
I mean,
It tells
thank
me
God.
that
The only saving grace of that whole thing was that there weren't grapes on there. Can you
oh,
imagine if there had been grapes?
she would have done 30 cuts on each one.
Well, you would have to, because the grapes would. I mean,
Uh-huh.
it'd be like a bowling alley with the grapes all over the floor. I mean,
Uh-huh.
yeah,
It just tells me everything I need to know about she's not in the mom trenches or the parents' trenches, whatever, where
exactly,
you're
exactly.
even if you're not a parent, you have nieces, nephews, whomever, you're around godchildren, you know that they're I love them, but they're little pains in the asses about this stuff. So
Yes, yes. And I mean, again, it's kind of like, would you put a white carpet? I mean,
uh-huh.
again, going back to the beige of it all. Do you put a white carpet right inside your front door, especially
Oh,
when you have like kids and dogs and who knows? It's like, you're not going to have a white carpet for long, and
nope.
you're not going to have a clean kitchen floor for long if you're playing those games with your rainbow fruit platter.
That's right.
But again,
Right.
I mean, back to your original point, the lack of awareness
Yeah.
of, is this going to get ridiculed?
Right.
Is this something that is truly going to raise the bar in a I know, God bless Martha Stewart for not unloading on Meghan more than she has, but is this going to raise the bar in my kitchen in a Martha Stewart kind of a way, or even more so in a Julia Child kind of way? Julia Child, for people who don't know, was a
Oh,
very
love her.
famous
Mhm.
TV chef. She was like the original
She was
TV
like
chef,
6 foot tall too, yeah. I
very
love her.
tall, and
Yes.
she was she was beloved because she was so relatable.
Mhm.
She would screw stuff up in her kitchen on TV. And and this, by the way, she started out, when I say she was the original, this is like when TV was black and white. We're talking
Mhm.
about like the 1960s. And she's on PBS. You can find, I'm sure there are a ton of videos of her on YouTube. Julia Child, the French chef. But
She'd be
she
like,
was,
"Hello!" Like, at these her
yes,
voice, yeah.
she was so enthusiastic about what she
Uh-huh.
did. She was so fun to watch. She was
Mhm.
so relatable.
And she was
And
slightly raunchy. I might be related to Julia Child. I love her, yes.
and you know what? She actually, she goes on, like, and again, I think this is on YouTube. You can look for it. And I had to laugh when they were talking about when Mindy Kaling was talking about Jack in the Box the other day.
Uh-huh.
Julia Child goes on this riff for like 10 minutes about McDonald's French fries
Uh-huh.
and why McDonald's French fries taste the way they do. And here's the kind of potato that they use, and here's how much salt they put on, and here's the kind of oil that. There's one thing where she gets upset because they had to change the type of oil. I don't know, because of trans fats or who knows what, but they changed the type of oil, and she went on this rant about how, well, McDonald's French fries, I get that they're a little more healthy, but they just don't taste the way that they used to. And I'm just, she was like the original Gordon Ramsay, although without Gordon Ramsay's sort of,
Yeah.
cantankerous
Mhm.
behavior. But and the other thing was, she would screw stuff up in her kitchen all the time.
Mhm.
And she would pull something out of the oven and be like,
Yeah.
well, that
I
didn't
love
come out
her. You're
quite the way
speaking
I
my language.
anticipated. Yeah,
Yes.
that didn't come out quite the way I had hoped, but we can fix that.
That's
We'll
right.
take our, this kind of a knife and this tool and that tool, and we'll, you know, but
So
again, that's what Meghan's show is so desperately lacking, I think, is the
exactly.
relatability, the utility of the information that she's conveying. Again,
The passion behind it, because Julia Child had a real passion for this and found her own made her own niche because she was so into the French cooking and stuff and couldn't find it. So,
absolutely,
yeah,
absolutely. And
absolutely.
and I'll just mention this now, and I know it's on your list, but there's a great YouTuber who I really enjoy. His name is Andrew Bustamante.
Okay.
He is a retired CIA officer, as was his wife. He was in the field. She was an analyst back at CIA headquarters, not far from where I am right here.
Mhm.
But he talks in and he has very, very interesting content, especially as pertains to the psychology of being a CIA officer and trying to
Oh, cool.
recruit people who could provide interesting information, and developing assets is what they call it. People are
Mhm.
probably familiar with that term. Anyway, he talks about the three levels of developing an asset that could be useful as a source of information for the CIA.
Mhm.
The lowest level is knowledge, knowing a person, knowing that they exist. The second level is liking the person.
Mhm.
And the third level, which is where you're really trying to get to, is trusting the person.
Mhm.
Know, like, trust. And when I think about that in the context of Meghan, I get it. People who watch your channel, Jen, people who watch um,
Sidley twins, anybody?
Sidley
Yeah.
Twins, Brittany,
Uh-huh.
HG Tudor,
Right.
Jesus and Enrique Rosas, and Cheer Denise, all of it, and Taz, and Resting Dollface, and
Yes.
everybody else. You're there because you have a well-established knowledge of who Meghan is and what she's about and all of that kind of stuff. I'm amazed at the number of people that I run into, and they say, we get in a conversation, and I say, I've done some YouTube videos with some really good creators and blah, blah, blah. And well, what do you talk about? Well, more recently, we've been talking about Meghan Markle. I kid you not, there are people who say to me, either who is Meghan Markle, or is she the woman who married Prince Harry?
Okay.
And I'm amazed at how often I hear that. These are people who are knowledgeable, they're educated, they're open-minded, they have a good grasp of things going on generally in the world. They do not know who Meghan Markle is. And then there are people who do know who Meghan Markle is. Again, your audience, Jen, and all these other people's audiences. They don't like Meghan.
Sure.
The Sussex squad, or the Sugars, however you want to, or Rachel's army, or whatever name.
Mafia, yes.
Yes, the Montecito Mafia.
Yeah.
I question whether they even like Meghan.
Yeah, I question that
There are
too.
people who know who she is, and I think they appreciate her antics. And again, we've talked about, and we can talk a little bit more about the extent to which Meghan prides herself, I think, on being a disruptor and a disruptive force.
Yeah.
She's going to save the world by taking some shots at the British royal family, and she's going to, save the world by taking shots at the British press and all these other entities. But I question whether even her supporters genuinely like her. And then the whole question of, does anybody really trust Meghan? I don't know. That's a big lift, I think,
And
for a
ask
lot of
Harry that
people.
question. He'd probably say, yeah.
Well, right.
Uh-huh.
And again, it gets back to, all right, what is the utility of her having I don't care if you call it a cooking show or a lifestyle show or whatever it is, again, relative to somebody like Julia Child, who everybody knew, not only liked, loved. And do they trust her? Absolutely. That's why they kept tuning in week after week.
Right. Yeah.
And you've got somebody like Meghan Markle, and it's like, boy, she is so lacking. She is, in terms of her ability to climb that ladder of know, like, trust. I mean, it's almost tragic, and it's part of what the entertainment value is, because it's such a train wreck.
Yes.
And people, I think, are anticipating, well, maybe she'll turn the page and she'll give us something to like, and maybe she'll even give us a reason to trust her.
Sure.
It's just not going to happen.
Just
not going to happen. And the interesting thing about it too, everybody's talking about the Pamela Anderson series.
Yes.
There were times, I mean, I'm old enough to remember when Baywatch, which was the show that really made her famous, was on TV. I think it's safe to say she probably had a substantial amount of plastic surgery. You can Google her and look at her picture in a red bathing suit as a California lifeguard and make up your own mind. But she was very, very popular. She was married to, I think, the drummer from Motley Crue, Tommy Lee, exactly. Yeah. And she was very well known for who she was and what she was doing, but she didn't have a lot of pretense about it. And she disappeared. When I heard that Pamela Anderson had come out with a cooking show or a lifestyle show, whatever it was, I thought, wow, that's really intriguing. And then when I paid a little closer attention and I started hearing all these stories about, this is really good. She's really likable in a Dolly Parton likable kind of a way. Again, that's a really good comparison. Compare Meghan Markle to Dolly Parton.
Sure.
And think about the pros and cons and compare and contrast the two of them. That is a fascinating exercise. So the same thing is true with Pamela Anderson. And Pamela Anderson, I mean, as far as I'm aware, she hasn't been in the spotlight in any way, shape, or form for decades. But now all of a sudden, she's basically reinvented herself in a very, very nice way, and everybody has very, very nice things to say. Nobody is ridiculing Pamela Anderson because of her show. They say it's very believable. We're learning something interesting. It's fun to watch, even if it's just, brain rot TV when I don't want to read a book. I don't want to watch, it's just, I just need something to keep me occupied before bed for a half an hour. People really like the show for that reasons. But again, the, the, the stark contrast between her or a Dolly Parton or a Martha Stewart and Meghan, I don't blame Martha Stewart for being irritated about the comparisons. I'm making a contrast between those three creative people and Meghan.
Right.
And it's, there's just not anything Meghan has done that is a surprise and delight type of component to
No, I agree.
anything that I have seen. And surprise and delight is what you need to have. She can call it surprising and delighting people. Oh gosh, there's a little sandwich bag that I could have put my 4-year-old's sandwich in to send them off to daycare. And instead I'm going to put pretzels in it. And I'm going to tie it off with a string and I'm going to set it next to the bed. That is not a surprise and delight type of elevation of a bedroom snack or anything like that.
I just covered episode 5, and I don't know if you know, that's called Surprise and Delight. That's why I'm laughing like that. I literally just covered it. Yeah. But you're exactly right. You made so many good points. I want to circle back on a couple of things real quick. First one is I want to put in a plug because I actually am so into Julia Child. It was a couple of years ago. I covered Julia. I love that movie where it's the real life story of the girl who cooked through Julia Child cookbook, and kind of it would show Julia Child's life versus modern day Julie's life cooking through her recipes. And so go watch that if you guys haven't seen that. And then but let's go back to what you said. So
and let me just interrupt, Jen, because I just had a thought pop into my head. If anybody's ever in Washington, you can, just to indicate what a giant of TV and of this type of programming Julia Child was, you can go to the Smithsonian. I think it's the American History Museum. They have the set that Julia Child used. They have the back wall with the ovens and the counter and the stove and her dishes and spoons and pots and pans. They have all of that stuff on display at the Smithsonian. And it's that and, the Archie Bunker's chair from All in the Family. That just gives you a sense of how profound an impact she had and how relatively uninspired Meghan's show is. Yeah. So I interrupted you. I'm sorry.
No, I'm smiling because the movie I covered takes place at that exact spot in the Smithsonian. They actually go there and show that set. So yeah,
no kidding.
It's and
that's cool.
And on a personal level, I've told you I've never been to DC, and one of my main reasons for going to DC is, well, two things. One, you're going to put dried flowers on lunch, you said, and two is I really want to go to the Smithsonian. I'm dying to go to the Smithsonian. No, I really want to go to the Smithsonian. That's very high on my list of places to go. So
listen, you'll get dried flowers on your food if we're at a cafe outside somewhere on a windy day and a florist truck drives by. That's how you'll get your dried flowers. You will not get them through any affirmative act on my part, I'm sorry to say. So set your expectations accordingly, please. I do not want you to be let down.
Okay. I just had a vision of, like, I don't know, we're at a restaurant and I get a grilled cheese and you just grab a handful of whatever's on the bush and just throw it on there. Here you go, Jen. Like,
right. Well, you've seen the spoof pictures of like the hot dogs in the bun.
Yes, exactly.
With the flowers at like.
Yes.
The internet never disappoints.
Yes. I'm writing this down because I brought those pictures, so I'll drop them in right here. Spoof pics. Yes, I will add those in because those were great. Yes, absolutely brilliant. But going back to the point you made, you're exactly right. We're in a bubble, maybe perhaps a little bit, and talking about me and my, the flock are in a bubble of where we know Meghan Markle. A lot of people don't know Meghan Markle. So just play the hypothetical game with me and think, you don't know Meghan Markle. Okay, it looks like there's a cooking show on Netflix. Let's just sit around and watch this while we play with our phones. This is your foray. This is your introduction to Meghan Markle. I would be appalled. Like, who is this woman? Why does she keep talking about dried flowers? And for the love of God, why is her hair in the food?
Why does she have bare feet in the kitchen?
Constantly, yes.
I mean, where's call the health inspector?
Yeah,
call OSHA. Call OSHA. I'm serious. We can ridicule these things, but in all seriousness, you're a moron if you have bare feet in your kitchen when you've got. And I don't know exactly where the bare feet come from, but number one, if you step on like a peanut shell or something, that's going to hurt. And God forbid something is hot on the stove and you spill some of it on the floor. Let's say you've got boiling water somewhere, like the pasta that she was making. If you've got boiling water, if that goes on the floor and you get this, we've all done it, the sort of the tidal wave of liquid that comes at you, you're in big trouble. You're in big trouble. That's just foolish. I'm sorry.
Yeah. So the point I make on that and this thing with the dog, I'll get to that. Is your house, your rules, do what you want. Some people are gonna be like, oh, I'm always barefoot in my kitchen. Do what you want. That's not a big deal.
Yes.
I lean over the lasagna pan and eat it right out of it. Enjoy that.
Right.
But you're exactly right. On a cooking show or a cooking show adjacent or just a TV show, are you gonna be barefoot? Are you going to have your hair in the food? In the last episode, I literally showed she had a dish she was carrying, and I'm not kidding. It was this.
Yeah.
And I was like, gross. She's talking about serving to her friends, and I was so grossed out by that.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're exactly right. It doesn't make any sense. It just shows it's more proof that she's not actually doing these things. She's not actually cooking. She's not actually giving a crap about the ins and outs, the practicalities of kitchen stuff, because you wouldn't do that.
If what she was doing was organic versus performative, like I've seen women, they get in the kitchen, they put on an apron and they have hair that's long like yours, Jen. And the first thing they do is bunch it all up, twist it around.
That's right.
In a bun of some sort. And then they stick a pencil through it. A chopstick, or
keep these with you when you have long hair.
Yes, or a scrunchie or whatever, rubber band. I don't, a binder clip.
You put it in the back of your shirt if you have nothing else. You find something.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes. Now, of course, she did that when she did the Billie Eilish. She had her hair down in her shirt. So, excuse me, that's not a completely foreign concept to her.
Right.
But, again, it's not only I don't want this in my food, I don't want it hanging as I'm looking down at the counter trying to do something, and I've got this stuff shaking back and forth in my peripheral vision. And, there's just so much, it's just not practical. Again, if what she was doing was organic, that would be a reflex action to, I want my hair out of my way and out of my mind while I'm dealing with hot food or dealing with the flame on the stove or trying to keep hair out of the food. But because it seems to be all performative,
that's it.
That doesn't happen.
No, and I wonder, and I'm not saying it's their job, I just can't make sense out of why wouldn't somebody on production be like, hey, Maggie Poo, people are going to find this gross. Why don't you pull your hair back?
Yeah.
Or maybe they do. And she's like, I know better, whatever. Now I won't do that.
Yeah. Entirely possible. Entirely possible. And there was a director and a producer and, and she had chefs there. She has professional chefs.
Right.
Exactly. Roy, the Korean guy.
Roy.
Yes. He knows better than that.
Absolutely. Yeah. Maybe they're afraid of her. I don't know.
So Yeah.
Huh. Well, going back to our list, let's see. Another point we had talked about I mean, it's one of my favorites that you've brought up several times, and if you care to elaborate on this, it's something we say to each other sometimes. It's checkers versus chess. And Meghan's inability to think, and I guess it would kind of tie into this because she only thinks. I don't, you explain it better than me. Checkers versus chess. She can't think steps ahead. Like, oh, people might find it gross that my hair's not pulled up. Oh, people might not realize or might realize that I'm not a chef. That kind of thing.
Absolutely. You're spot on. And it again, it goes back to so many components of this whole production.
Mhm.
I mean, you see that in the hair being a great example. The like the dancing around in the kitchen,
Yes.
the bare feet,
Uh-huh.
the
I can tell you
um,
in the last episode, she literally the last one that I just watched, I wrote it down. It was so stupid. She basically said, now I won't be able to find, but in a nutshell, it was something like, okay, so now I get to spend the day floral arranging. Who has time to do that? Who is that for? Even if floral arranging is your thing, so maybe I have an hour to floral arrange or whatever. Who has a day to spend arranging flowers?
well, and the absurdity of, again, this is a good example of the checkers versus chess thing again, and in the context of, okay, I'm doing something organic versus I'm doing something performative, like I'm, I mean, gosh, I would say like you're in a movie, but it's not. It would be in a parody. It would be like a Saturday Night Live skit. There's one scene of her where she's carrying flowers. She looks for all the world like she's got armfuls of logs for the fireplace. That is the way she's carrying all of these flowers.
You're exactly right.
And
Yes.
it is so absurd and
Sorry, I've
over
got
the top.
Listen.
And oh,
Yes, exactly. There you go.
there it is.
Yeah.
Who does that?
I don't
Who does that?
I
Again, we're
have a
back to
Oh, go ahead.
go ahead.
Uh-huh.
Go
No, I
ahead.
was
No,
just gonna say I have a theory on that. I think she does things like this to appear smaller. I think a lot of things to her are size, and so if she grabs big things, it looks like she's busy and it looks like she's smaller. That's just my opinion. But
well,
please, yeah.
that's an interesting take, and you may be right on that. But like so much of everything else that she does,
Uh-huh.
there's a lack of. I've made this analogy on a couple of different occasions.
Mhm.
There are stories on stories on stories of people who basically have nothing, and then they hit the lottery or the Powerball or whatever it is, and all of a sudden they've got 50 million bucks,
Mhm.
and they, through no fault of their own, they have no idea what to do with the money and how to
Mhm.
spend it properly.
Mm.
And they go out and they buy, these would be like people
Flowers
living
like
in.
that. Yeah.
Yes, or they live in a rural area and they put in
Uh-huh.
a motorcycle racetrack in their backyard, and they
Sure.
buy themselves a Lamborghini, or they
Uh-huh.
get a pickup truck and they put gold-plated wheels on it,
Mhm.
or like Kanye did, get diamonds put on his teeth.
Mhm.
Or and you see this with professional athletes in the United States, especially like NBA players, where they have this huge sum of money that comes into their world, and they have no idea what to do with it. And then before you know it, and they spend it on all this ridiculous overkill and private jets. Where have we seen that before? And a 14-bedroom house. Where have we seen that before? And the
An
next thing they
outdoor flower arranging station, which is what she had in this episode, yes.
yes, and then the next thing you know, lo and behold, oh, guess what? They're bankrupt.
Yeah.
They're bankrupt. And that, and again, I think back, we've talked about Johnny Depp in the past. The night of Amber Heard's birthday, when she got so upset because he wasn't there and she left him a little present in the middle of the bed. The reason that he wasn't there was that his accountants had sat him down at his office and had said to him, hey man, you got to put a stop to this. You're not going to have any money left. You're going to end up kicked out of your house, or your houses. And anyway, so I mean, again, people are familiar with those stories, but you got to wonder. You got to wonder. The money is not unlimited for Meghan and Harry. They don't have another tell-all book to sell, presumably. Even if they do have some more dirt,
Yeah.
they're never going to have book sales in the quantity that he had. She's never going to have another TV show. I'm assuming that she gets some sort of residual on Suits, but
I can't imagine
I cannot imagine. Anyway, to get back to the original point, it's again the same thing as people who have nothing, which it seems like was the case with her. And to her father's great credit, he apparently won the lottery and poured all of his winnings into her education, which is kind of remarkable. He apparently paid for her private school education and her college using his lottery winnings.
Wow.
And, you know, again, to his great credit, he did that. But I don't think she's the type of person who would have the forethought to do something like that. She just doesn't strike me as.
She would go buy a pair of jean shorts with it. You know what I mean? Just.
Yeah, well, a $500 pair of jean shorts.
Exactly.
She wouldn't just
thing.
Right. She wouldn't go on Amazon and or go to the Levi's store.
Exactly.
And you know, buy all that stuff and say, okay, well, there's $40. I got my shorts. It's I don't care about the high and low,
right,
whatever. She doesn't strike me as a person who has the goods. And again, this is back to the relatability, the know, like, trust. She does not strike me as the type of person who has any degree of relatability. And I'll just mention as well, there's so many videos on YouTube from people who talk about a show like Succession, where there's this quiet luxury. And I think about Prince William and Princess Catherine, when they're driven somewhere by a chauffeur, as they're totally entitled to do, by the way, given who they are and what they're up to. When they drive their own car, they're not driving a Range Rover. They're driving Audis. An Audi is a very sort of quiet luxury. It's a nice car. It's a fast car. I have one myself. It's a nice car. It's a fast car. It's a very comfortable car. It's a fun car, but it is not an S-Class Mercedes or a Range Rover. And when you see Prince William wearing a shirt that has a logo on it, to the extent that you do see that, it's a Ralph Lauren polo pony on the shirt. It's very low key.
Yeah.
It's not ostentatious. It's the same $60 polo shirt that anybody in the world can walk into a department store or walk into a polo store.
Polo shirt. There you go.
There we go. So
mine's a polo shirt too. And there you go.
There's another one. So you can tell where I shop. But again, it's very the same reason that I wear that stuff. It's very, and you wear that stuff, and everybody else does. It's comfortable. It's not. It's nice, but it is not asinine and over the top. It is not conspicuous consumption. And somebody might say, "Oh, well, she doesn't wear jewelry that has a label on it, or this, or that, or the other." But lo and behold, mysteriously, when she does wear a shirt or a pair of pants or whatever watch it is, or a bracelet or a necklace, somehow that all gets revealed. It's like, oh, well, this cost $3,000 and that cost $8,000, and sorry.
No, again, it's ridiculous. Yeah.
Right. I'd be terrified that I spilled some wine on it.
Yes, exactly. Absolutely. Yeah. And if she's the hands-on mom that she claims, that's again, that's something she always says. So I always laugh when I say, as a mother, my first thought is her kids are young. why wouldn't you naturally tie back your hair and not wear your fancy stuff because you're around your kid?
Yes,
That's just more to me evidence of just words not matching actions. It's
exactly.
just something you
That's
think about.
exactly right.
Yeah.
That's exactly right.
Always the case with those 2. Oh, okay, so John, something else that you had said that I found so amusing, and I'd love it if you don't mind explaining it to everybody. You had an analogy of a car alarm. Could you explain that to us in
Oh
terms
yeah,
of Megan?
yeah. I mean, Meghan and Harry are like the car alarm in the city that goes off, and nobody looks out their window and says, "Wonder whose car that is. That might be some trouble. I better take a quick look, and maybe I'll even call the police." Does anybody do that? No, of course not, because it's just like, oh, you know, roll over and stick the pillow on the side of your head to to go back to sleep at 3 in the morning when the car alarm is going off. The car alarm is, I mean, that's the way Meghan and Harry are. It's this constant, oh, guess what? They've popped up. He's at Invictus. Guess what? They've popped up on CBS Sunday Morning with Jane Pauley. Guess what? They've popped up in New York doing a pap walk through the Hertz rent-a-car counter. Um, or they popped up at the
Like at a farmer's market or
at the ESPYs, at the Pat Tillman
yeah,
Award,
there you go.
or on the red carpet for the Los Angeles Children's Hospital, or what, and it's just like,
A movie theater in Jamaica for no reason, sure, yeah.
yes, wearing a
Yeah.
giant
Ball
giant.
giant
Oh my,
ball gown to a movie theater, yep.
in Jamaica, in the
I
islands, I thought, I mean, I bet there were people in that premiere that had their bathing suit on still. You know what I
yeah,
mean?
absolutely, yeah.
And I mean, of all the places where you might wear bare feet, and it's like when I go to my relatives' home in Florida for Thanksgiving or something, they my aunt sometimes says, well, listen, seeing as how this is a special occasion, can everybody kind of kick it up a notch and maybe throw a T-shirt on before you come to the table for Thanksgiving dinner? It's, and if you're going to sit there at the Thanksgiving dinner table with a bathing suit on, can you throw a towel down on the chair so there's not a giant, ring,
Right.
a swimming pool water ring on
Mhm.
my kitchen, on my dining room table furniture? Anyway, the point being, again, just the absurd inappropriateness of everything.
Yep,
Again,
yep.
it's all performative. It's all
Mhm.
for a demonstration of some sort. None of it is organic,
You're
and
absolutely right.
it does
Yeah.
not feel natural.
It seems to be a recurring theme with those 2 for sure. Let's see. Oh, and then you had another great point about a sign on a horse. Do you care to explain that one to us?
Yeah, yeah. Well, that actually goes back to law school,
Okay.
and just briefly, it's, when you take the classes about different types of businesses, corporations, LLCs, limited liability companies, S corporations. There are all these different categories of incorporating, and the point of the recurring point of the class was, if you, let's say you incorporate a business of some sort or an entity, and you call it a limited liability company,
Mhm.
but you behave and you run the company in a way that it is a different type of a corporation.
Mhm.
Or let's say you incorporate as a 501c3, a charitable entity, which is what they call them, a tax-exempt,
Yeah.
not-for-profit organization like the Red Cross in the United
Mhm.
States. I don't know for sure. I'm assuming they're a 501c3.
Sure.
And then you behave in a way that a for-profit corporation would behave. The phrase was, you can hang a sign on a horse that says, "This is a pig." Does that make it a pig? The answer is no.
No. That's funny.
And in the context of Meghan, you can hang a sign on a person like Meghan
Mhm.
and say, This is a person who is thoughtful, who is sophisticated, who is who has a lot of class,
Uh-huh.
who has grace,
Right.
who seems like a person that I would like to be around.
Mhm.
You can hang a sign on a person like Meghan and say she is all of these things. Does that make her all of these things? No,
Mhm.
because actions speak louder than words. Her
That's it.
reputation precedes her, and
Mhm.
that's the big hurdle that she has to overcome, is that her, as I said, her reputation precedes her, and everybody has an impression in their mind of who she is, what she's about, what her goals are, all of these types of things. And yet she can dress herself up in insanely expensive clothing and jewelry and fly on private jets and take, I don't know how many, took 9 suitcases or something up with her. Somebody said up to Invictus to Vancouver.
Yeah.
And by the way, I forget exactly. Speaking of going to Vancouver, this was a point I made to somebody else the other day. There are, I believe, 6, maybe 7 airlines that fly from Los Angeles to Vancouver on a daily basis. All the major US airlines, all the major Canadian airlines, plus a couple of the sort of small fry like WestJet and Porter and those
Mhm.
types of airlines. All these airlines going, they all have multiple flights a day.
Mhm.
She went by a private jet. Makes no sense. And
No.
again, that goes back to, and what were the pictures that made the newspaper? When she landed in Seattle,
Mhm.
somebody took a picture of her coming down the steps of a private jet, and they showed the guy in the back unloading luggage and luggage and luggage and luggage and luggage. It reminded me of the scene at the opening of Titanic,
Mhm.
when Titanic is docked in the UK, and you see there's the wide shot, and you see the crane lifting up the the automobile and lowering it down into the ship, and when Rose and her mother and her fiance show up and they get out of the car, and there's this giant stack of steamer trunks that are being offloaded, and oh, we need all 10 of these steamer trunks and this and that in room such and such. That's what it reminded me of. And
Mhm.
so again, this goes back to the whole notion of what is the basis of people's perception of Meghan and
Yeah.
of Harry. It's this kind of stuff, contrasted again with somebody like Prince William, who carries his own briefcase
Right.
when he gets off the plane. And I fully believe that if Meghan called up, or their assistant or whoever it is called up United Airlines or Delta or whoever, or American, whatever, and said, we want to fly up to Vancouver.
Mhm.
We don't want a lot of muss and fuss in the terminal. Can you make special arrangements, as have been made in the past, to let us board through the stairs, from the ramp up, not through the concourse or anything, just
Sure.
let us board. We'll be the last ones on. We'll sit in first class. We won't
Mhm.
make a big production. They would have easily done that for them.
Yeah, absolutely. That's
But again,
exactly what Catherine and Princess of Wales did, when she flew with her children, and I think that she took one nanny, and, she sat with everybody and, thanked everybody on the way out, and they let them off first, just real quick, just for, safety, and that was that, and it was just not a big deal. Just
yeah,
not a big deal. Yep,
right. It's
absolutely.
easy to do.
Whereas
Very
with her,
easy.
you could justify private and security and all this stuff, and
Yeah, couldn't you?
yeah.
That would definitely be the case.
Yeah,
Definitely.
no, anyway.
No,
Yeah,
not going to
no,
do it.
you make such a good point for sure, for sure. Let's see, then, uh, we talked about that there were no recipes shown through this thing. That is so wild to me. I have a theory on it. My theory is she's gonna be peddling a cookbook, so that's probably something to do with it, or is it just she doesn't have the skills to back it up? She says throughout this thing, I just eyeball it." That tells me nothing. I don't cook, so I don't know anything about this stuff. Like, okay, is this an eyeball amount or is this an eyeball amount? I don't know what that means.
Yeah.
So,
Well, here's the thing of it too. I mean, again, we've already talked about how most of what she does is fairly uninspired. Putting the peanut peanut butter pretzels in the bag, or arranging the fruit in the shape of a rainbow. I mean, wow, that is. I mean, I gotta go. Let me go lie down. I can't. I'm so struck by the profound. You know, what would she put into a cookbook that
Yeah.
is hers
Dried
and
flowers. Yeah.
yeah, hers and hers alone.
Uh,
Um, this is a thing that's interesting too. Um, Fairly recently, there were there were applications dropped at the United States Patent and Trademark Office for this, and this is independent of all the other stuff that she started with American Riviera Orchard, and then she abandoned it. She reapplied for most of the same crap with
as
as
ever.
ever, crap being a term of art.
Catch all. Yeah.
Yes, a catch-all term.
Uh-huh.
And then all of a sudden, there was an application for a trademark on cookie mix.
Yeah.
And I thought, and some other people thought, okay, well, we know what's coming next, because this was not part of the catch-all thing, but somehow there's going to be cookie mix. And then lo and behold, here comes People Magazine, and oh, here's a sneak preview of all the things that Meghan is going to be selling. And of course, there's going to be jam, and there's going to be this and that and the other. And who knows when we'll see any of that stuff. But sure enough, there was cookie mix in the thing.
You
But
called it.
why would I buy Meghan's cookie mix?
I don't know.
Why would I buy her jam? I don't know about anybody else's grocery store, but when I go to the grocery store, I mean, it's like buying ice cream. I mean, you literally have to go through a mental exercise, because there are 14 different brands of ice cream, each of which has dozens and dozens of flavors, and you can kind of pick and choose what you want. The same thing is true when you go to the jam and jelly selection. Just, feet and feet and feet of shelf space devoted to all this stuff. So unless you really had a, a I don't know what the analogy is I'm looking for, but unless you really had a strong desire to support whatever Meghan is selling. And by the way, have we heard anything about, all the profits are going to go to charity, like the King's stuff,
Right.
or that you bought, or the Paul Newman salad dressing, all proceeds go to charity? Have we heard that about Meghan's, her things that she's hawking? No, I don't think we have.
No.
And it will be interesting to see what's going to be the upshot of this. Is she going to donate the profits to some cause that she deems worthy, or is it going to go into her pocket, into her wardrobe account?
I bet I can guess where it's going to go.
Yeah.
Rhymes with her pocket.
Yeah. Put your responses in the comments.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. No, you're exactly right. What is the point? Why is her mix superior? She can't even answer. That's the thing that blew my mind. So every episode, she's hot, like just hardcore shoving down her throats these dried flowers. That's why I can't get off of it. Because from donuts to a salad to everything in between, she's put dried flowers on it.
Yes.
So I said she must be selling this, and sure enough, she is. But my point, so I think it was either episode 1 or episode 2, somebody point blank asked her, "Oh, what does this do for it?" She couldn't answer it. She basically said, "Oh, it just elevates it. It makes it look better."
Right. Right.
You have not sold me on anything except for that you don't know what you're doing in the kitchen. You have not sold me. So what are we doing here? What is the point of this?
And in reality, there are a lot of things that you can put on something that you've prepared for food.
Sure.
That, like little, basil or oregano or
Sure.
I mean, all the, those little herbs that people grow in window boxes. You can
Yes.
easily put those types of things on food, and it adds a little kick to it. Or you think, oh wow, that's interesting. What is this? And that's a whole
Seeds,
art of.
nuts, anything. Yeah, sure.
Yes, yes, and
Mhm.
I mean, I'm far from qualified as a chef, but I know
Mhm.
that there's this concept when you are in the culinary arts that they call plating,
Yeah,
meaning what
absolutely.
is, for instance, if you ever order something in a restaurant and like if you get a piece of beef or something and they've kind of drizzled some sort of a sauce, so they do it all the time with like if you get a piece of cheesecake and
Mhm,
there's a cranberry sauce
mhm.
of some sort that's been drizzled over the cheesecake and onto the plate, and you look at that and you think, oh, that's kind of cool. Somebody actually cared about what they were doing, and it
Mhm.
actually makes a difference in terms of the flavor.
That's
But
right,
you're
exactly.
going to put edible flowers. I mean, the whole point of it seems to me edible flowers,
Mhm.
I'm not aware that it does anything for the taste. And the only thing that's kind of interesting about it is, well, it's not going to kill you. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
If you went out, I mean, I could go outside and pick a daffodil or a rose or something, and who knows, and chop it up with scissors and put it on food,
Right.
and like I'm not eating that. So
Exactly.
the only thing that's interesting about her edible flowers is that presumably they're not going to do anything negative.
That's
That's
right.
I need the ambulance quick. I
The
ate
same can be
something.
said about pine bark. I don't wanna eat it, but it probably won't hurt me if I accidentally do.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know?
Or I mean,
Uh-huh.
m- not to go into dark territory, but
Uh-huh.
mushrooms. Where
Yeah,
have we heard about
yeah.
about uh,
That's
certain
right.
people in that family having a interest in consuming mushrooms?
That's right, exactly. No, you're exactly right, but she can't even explain why. And the other thing that just and again, I'm circling back on something you
Yeah,
said about the products and why. The thing that just absolutely I cannot make sense out of, I can't, except for to say that's Megan, is okay, she knew that this project was dropping. Then she knew she had an extension that this project was dropping. You're never gonna have more of an audience than you do right this moment, whether they like
absolutely.
you or don't like you.
Oh,
Why,
and
my goodness,
right,
why would you
right
have
this moment. No, I'm sorry, that's gone.
yes,
Right
exactly,
this moment was, when did the first episodes drop? Was it Tuesday?
you say.
Tuesday and Wednesday. We're recording this on a Friday. The right this moment factor. That
It's gone.
horses out of the barn.
Why wouldn't
Yeah,
you have your ducks in a row and have your website just ready to go with 100, you know what I mean, pre-packaged whatever, ready to ship? She's
that's a mystery for the ages.
and
That's
so
like
yeah,
asking, why were the pyramids built?
I know, but
It's just a giant mystery. It makes
it's
no sense at all.
so you're speaking to somebody whose degrees are in public relations and psychology. These are
Yes,
things that keep me up at night. You have to have your products ready and you have to be ready with a mental, fortitude to do it. She has neither of these things. No business
right,
sense, no mental anything, understanding of it.
right.
It
Yeah,
blows my mind.
it's absolutely remarkable. You couldn't be more spot on with that. It's
You can hear
absolutely
the tone
mind
of
blowing.
my voice. I take this just so seriously. Like, what are you thinking? Even if people hate you, somebody's going to hate buy your products. Why wouldn't you have those ready to go?
Right,
It
right.
blows my mind. Blows my
Yep,
mind. What
yep.
other opportunity? But then People Magazine, to you, exactly what you're saying, comes out with she's going to have this muffin mix ready sometime in spring. It's freaking spring. We're here. Daylight savings starts
Yes,
on Sunday. We are in
yes,
spring.
yes.
What do we
And
do?
it's, here's another analogy. Like when Chevrolet or General Motors, when they redesigned the Corvette,
Mhm.
everybody knows it. It's like, it's coming. It's going to
Yes,
be here in 2 years, in 1 year,
yeah,
in 6 months.
that's
We
right.
know it's coming. We are eagerly anticipating it, and we will wait for it because we want to see it.
That's
And we
right.
want to drive the new and improved version.
Mhm.
Who is waiting
Who's
for
waiting?
Meghan's wares to be available? Nobody is waiting with bated breath for the version of cookie mix or jelly or any of that stuff.
Nope.
that she's going to put forward.
Because
People are already forgetting.
that's right. She can't even show us in this show what makes hers anything special. Because
Right.
there's I keep saying this. I'm not, I pride myself on honesty. If I saw something of hers that I wanted to eat, I would say, I want to eat that. The
Sure.
only thing I have wanted to eat from this show is the fried chicken, and that was made by Roy Choi. I thought
Yeah.
that looked delicious. Other than that, I'm like, literally the last episode I watched, she took jam, put in the bottom of a glass saucer, put a scoop of ice cream on top.
Right. And there are some pictures, I'm not sure which episode, and some film from one of the episodes where she's made little round thingies, and she's got a spoon and she's putting a little blob of, I assume it's jam or jelly or something,
Yeah.
in the middle of each one. It's like, again, these have been
around. Our mothers have made these for us at this point, right?
Yes. These are mom and grandmother tricks.
That's right.
They really are.
Exactly.
They really are. It's about as profound as a dog that will sit on command.
That's right.
This is not heady, fancy stuff.
You're so right. The analogy I made recently is, remember, you may not have been aware of this, but back when I was a child, I remember all the rage was to take a Barbie doll, stick it in the middle of a cake, and that became her dress. Like, that was a big deal.
Yeah.
It's this cake style. I remember it from being a kid. And so, like, I'm waiting for her to come out and be like, well, Lily just loves it when I take this thing and I do this. It's like, it's done. It's done.
And not only that, but I mean, what is the competition that she's up against?
Exactly.
Do you know how many recipes there are on TikTok that take less than 2 minutes to show? They get millions of views, and in a lot of cases, they are really interesting and profound.
Yes.
And fun. And you look at them and you think, boy, I would never have thought of that, but I'm going to try that. That looks cool. Exactly. There is nothing in Meghan's show that would make anybody say, oh, again, this whole surprise and delight. Ooh, I wouldn't have thought of that.
That's it.
I'm going to try that. As soon as this episode's over, I'm going to go into the kitchen and I'm going to do that. There's nothing that I have seen that is on that level. And by the way, it's not just TikTok. It's on Instagram. There are Facebook Reels. Or you can go on the Better Homes and Gardens website and look at the recipes of, here's, take a, I don't know off the top of my head, take a Hershey bar or a Cadbury bar and melt it down, and then take a fork and pick it up, a piece of it, and drag it across the top of a cake so that it looks like a cornfield. I mean, I'm just, but you get the point. There's none of that. There's literally none of that.
One of the things, my kid is really into those pre-made peanut butter and jelly round sandwiches. They gross me out, but she really likes them. But then she kind of got sick of them. So I literally just had to Google, what do I do with these things? Found a recipe to make French toast out of them. I was like, perfect. That's what I'll do. It's stuff like that. Parents try to think of, how do I not waste this food, but trick my kid into eating it? Whatever it is, if it's vegetables, if it's just stuff that they get sick of, whatever.
Right.
Why didn't, and again, it's Meghan's fault, but why didn't somebody on production, I wonder, say, Maggie Poo, all this crap's been done. Can we try something else? Maybe they did. Maybe there's just no getting through to her. Maybe she's like, my ideas are the greatest. I suspect it's something like that, but I'm just like, how does nobody see that this is like batshit? I can't make sense.
You know what? And it's just my theory, like, and my opinion, just like everything that I've said as we've been talking.
Same.
My working hypothesis is that they tried to do that at Netflix.
Okay.
There are smart people at Netflix, very capable people at Netflix. There are showrunners. There are people who have had extensive experience in all this stuff. I guarantee you that they tried to bring in chefs who would
elevate, as she says, elevate.
Yes. Yes. And my working hypothesis, my opinion, my theory is that she shot it all down. And at the end of the day, the people at Netflix threw their hands up and said, screw this. We can't take any more. We will take a loss on this. And just let her stew in her own juice by making a fool of herself. And that's basically what she's done. Even somebody told me the other day, and I'm not familiar with exactly where the various newspapers shake out on the political spectrum in the UK, but I believe, or I know in the US, I know the New York Times is quite liberal. I think the New York Times had sort of tepid at best things to say about the series. Some of the very left-leaning newspapers in the UK had very unflattering things to say about it. There's I don't know if it's a website or a magazine called Vulture that had some really scathing comments to make about the whole series.
Yeah.
And
I'm only aware of one positive, and that was one that's known for working. Well, People Magazine, I think, and then Harper's Bazaar, maybe the one that works with her quite often. But yeah.
Yeah. Well, and Brittany from Royal News Network, God bless her, she has said more times than I can count, she has used the word vapid and vacuous. And she's put that in her thumbnails, and she has said that, and other people have made similar comments.
Sure.
But it's just, again, like, this is not even sort of, as I said a little while ago, this is not even the type of thing that would entertain you between 10:30 and 11 o'clock at night. If you just were looking for some junk food, brain dead content to watch, you would just say to yourself, this doesn't get it done. I would rather watch, I don't know, the fail army videos, or
I would rather watch Harry in court saying dumb shit than I would watch
right,
this.
or a police body cam video of pulling over somebody who'd had too much to drink. That would be far more entertaining than this.
Yeah, I agree.
It is not must see TV. It is not. I need to set my DVR. Not that you need to set your DVR to see this, but you get the point. It's not that kind of content. And again, back to our original point, it's appalling. And it is, again, one of the great mysteries of the universe. Why in the world was this allowed through all of the gates that it needed to get through to actually make it onto the air? And it's absolutely profoundly astounding. And you have to remember, too, the Spotify comment of effing grifters.
Yeah.
That's out there. That's never going to die. And I suspect that Netflix, as I said, the executives just threw their hands up. The production people, the directors, the producers, the showrunners just said, we can't do anything with this. We got to just cut our losses and move on to the next thing.
Yep. I think you're spot on. And then, so I've saved, in my opinion, one of the more interesting points for last year. There's just something I really want to talk about with you, which is, let's talk the Sussex name, because that's coming out. So if you guys aren't aware, on the second episode, Mindy Kaling, aka I'm 5 episodes in, and I can say that is the worst episode, hands down. There's been one that I found more cringe, but that is just the worst episode in general. It brought out the absolute worst in Meghan, and that's saying something. She just came across, I'm sorry, I don't like to refer to women as this, but in this case, it fits. She came across as very bitchy in this, very unlikable. I mean, she's not wholly likable in the series, but very unlikable. And I don't, the whole thing just was, it was just a very odd, cringy watch. But can
I just interrupt for a second?
Yes.
Since you mentioned Mindy Kaling, I really liked Mindy Kaling as Kelly Kapoor on The Office. She was funny. She was engaging. You knew that anytime she was around on camera, there was going to be some sort of fun chaos that she brought to bear on the situation. She is not
She's not that.
well liked
Uh,
as a person by a lot of people. She has done some stuff that has really set people off. She is a very divisive person in a lot of ways. I think the most notable thing was there was a Scooby-Doo reboot
Velma,
on,
I think, was it? Yeah.
yes, or
Mhm.
Velma on Scooby on HBO,
Mhm.
and she had some pretty unappealing comments, at least for a lot of people, about why some of the characters were race swapped, and some of the content I think people thought was very raunchy and very contrary to their childhood memories of Scooby Doo and Velma from the original 1969 series. And so she is not a person that if I was doing a show, I would try to find somebody that was a little bit more universally liked and neutral.
Yeah.
So I look at Mindy Kaling's presence on the show and I just think, is that the best she could do? Or maybe she's too, tone deaf to realize that there are a lot of people who are very angry at Mindy Kaling and
Mhm.
don't want to hear anything from her or about her or anything else. So I just throw that out there
Yeah.
as a production question mark in my
Mhm.
mind, and I'm sure in some other people's minds as well. But you were going to say something else about Mindy Kaling before I interrupted.
No, that's okay. Yeah, I can pick that up, but you just gave me a funny idea. What if each episode she had somebody very divisive like that, like your Blake Lively, that Rachel Ziegler, different people like that, Amber Heard, that'd
Well,
be funny.
I suspect Meghan would have been thrilled to have any of those people come on.
True, that's
Not
true.
notwithstanding how corrosive. I mean, Rachel Zegler. I mean, I haven't been able to keep track, but apparently there has been and there continues to be
Yeah.
all sorts of agony and indigestion about Rachel Zegler at Walt Disney
I've done some
Company.
videos on it. Go back and take a look. She said some really not nice things.
Oh,
Yeah.
she's a very unlikable person,
Mhm.
and of course Amber Heard proved herself to be very
Yeah.
unlikable. Blake Lively is
Oh.
emerging as a very unlikable person in a lot of people's
Mhm.
opinion. But
Yeah.
it wouldn't surprise me at all if Meghan could have hooked any of
Oh, yeah.
those
Jada Pinkett
artists.
Smith. Yeah, yeah.
Yes, yes, exactly,
Yeah. Yeah,
exactly.
absolutely.
Yeah,
But the reason I brought up Mindy Kaling is because it was that episode where Mindy Kaling said something about I don't remember the exact context, so I'm paraphrasing, but something along the lines of, something, something, "Yes, Meghan Markle." And
yes. It
Meghan
was no, it was. Nobody would ever believe that Meghan Markle
that's
had
okay.
gotten a meal at Jack in the Box.
Mhm. Yeah,
Really,
and so Megan was like yeah, that alone was ridiculous, and we'll get there, but it was just Megan's response was, "You keep calling me that. I'm Megan Sussex."
my name is Sussex.
Yes, but please, let's start with the Jack in the Box. What were your thoughts? I know you've had a lot of thoughts on that, we've talked about it. So Megan was trying to be faux humble, or what about the Jack in the Box? What are your thoughts on that?
I can't make sense of it because it literally defies belief for me. But I was telling you a couple of
Mhm.
days ago that there was a time when there was a sandwich shop there's a chain of small little sandwich places in downtown Washington called COSI, COSI,
Mhm.
and um, I walked in there one time and there's the usual, you know, middle of the day lunchtime line, and I looked and there's Rob Reiner from Hollywood celebrity just
Yeah.
standing
Meg
in
Ryan
line like a
movies, yes,
right,
uh-huh.
standing in Princess Bride and Spinal Tap and All in the
Mhm.
Family. That
Harry
Rob
and
Reiner,
Sally, yeah, uh-huh.
yes, he's just standing in line with his hands in his pockets, looking up, just like as you do, like looking at the menu board.
That's so cool.
Oh, that looks good.
Mhm.
That looks good. And that's what he was doing.
Yeah.
No muss, no fuss, none of that type of stuff.
Mhm.
So, and I've said, I was in New York one time. I walked up to a street corner waiting for the light and looked to my left, and there's Joan Rivers, who used to be the guest host on The Tonight Show when Johnny Carson was hosting. She had her own show, and she'd done all kinds of other stuff. And I was in DC one time and standing waiting for the light to change, and There's Barry Williams, who played Greg Brady on the Brady Bunch. He was standing there because he was in town doing a show at one of the theaters.
Mhm.
And, and I had a conversation with him. It was very normal and everything. And he was very kind and very nice and gracious. No, come down, see the show and everything. Great guy. But again, this whole notion that somebody of Meghan's caliber
Yeah.
would never have eaten at Jack in the Box.
I know.
Again, back to Julia Child.
Right.
Talking about, well, I like the French fries. Well, how in the world would Julia Child have, I mean, talk about somebody who would be genuinely entitled to be a foodie and to be a food snob. She
Sure.
clearly had spent more than a little bit of time at McDonald's eating whatever they had on the, and critiquing the French fries. And
She
I'm
could
sure,
tell that the oil changed. Sure. Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's like, if you go on a road trip someplace, I don't care if you're a celebrity or where do you stop? Oh, geez, we've been in the damn car for 5 hours. I'm hungry. Are you hungry? Are you hungry? Yes, let's get something to eat. Where do we want to go? Oh, we just passed a sign, McDonald's, next exit.
Right.
Great, we'll do it. Jack in the Box, next exit. Perfect. Get in, get out. It'll be cheap. It'll be tolerable. It'll be a chance to get out of the car. So
That's
again, this notion that Meghan is somehow so pure and so above the rest of the minions in the world that people would be shocked to know that Meghan had eaten at Jack in the Box. I mean, come on. If you go to California, there is a Jack in the Box. And for people who don't know, Jack in the Box is a West Coast fast food chain. And it's basically just like McDonald's with a little, the usual twists that every little chain has. There's basically a Jack in the Box on every other street corner. They are not hard to find. And especially like if you're a kid,
right.
oh, I want to go to Jack. Where do you want to go to eat after the soccer game? Oh, let's go to Jack in the Box. That'll be fun. Have a hamburger and a milkshake.
Right.
Great. Why would it be a shock to anybody that Meghan had been to Jack in the Box? That is one of the most bizarre comments I've ever heard.
So weird. It's kind of symptomatic of the overall show. It can't decide what it wants to be. She's like talking about relatable, she'll say the word relatable, it's not relatable with some things, but then in a $30 million mansion, whatever it is. It's just like, what? No. But
and it was such an awkward comment as well, and which says to me that the editor, it was not a flattering comment for either Mindy Kaling or Meghan.
Exactly.
And yet they left it in. Why did they leave it in? There's only one conceivable reason, and that is that Meghan needed to have that line in there so that she could blow her horn about being Meghan Sussex now. Even as cantankerous and unlikable as she was, you keep calling me Meghan Markle. You know my name is Meghan Sussex now.
I know.
What an unflattering thing. I don't even know why. They could have said, wait a minute, cut. Can we just redo that little interaction and maybe not make it quite so nasty and off-putting? It's like, geez, what a pill.
Being
of course.
obtuse.
Of course.
If I called you your first name and your middle name, you know who I'm talking about.
Yes. Right.
She's
right.
being obtuse on purpose. Sure.
Yes. And the other thing that's interesting about this too is that, I mean, how many months ago was this shot?
Yes.
So she's been sitting on this, waiting to spring it as part of this show, and as part of her appearance with Drew Barrymore, she's been sitting on this, incubating it for weeks and months, apparently. And now all of a sudden we're hearing about it. Well, how convenient,
Interesting. Yes. So that makes me ask you then, tell me your theories and I'll tell you mine. Why is this coming out? What's her ultimate, where do you think she's headed with this? Why Sussex all of a sudden?
Well, let me just say, I think it's quite ironic right off the bat. Meghan fancies herself, and she basically all but tells the world that she is a strong, independent woman. She is very much a feminist. She's going to do her own thing, and people know what I'm talking about.
Yes.
And yet, all of a sudden now, she has shed her maiden name, her family name. And she has taken the name that is what's the word I'm looking for?
It's
A
only
vestige.
acquired by marriage. Yeah.
Correct.
Through a
Correct.
man. Yeah.
It's collateral
Uh-huh.
to the man
Uh-huh.
that she married.
Yeah.
And by the way, he is. I'm not a gamer at all, but in the
Uh-huh.
gaming community, they have it what they call an NPC, which is a non-player
Yes.
character. She has
Uh-huh.
taken the name of an NPC, a non-player character in the British royal family. It means basically that he is incidental and collateral to everything that's going on in the British royal family. Um, Especially, he is collateral in the British royal family since Megxit and since they decamped to California.
Mhm.
So the idea that she would take his name is it's weird.
It is.
It doesn't make any sense. And all of her prior um, notoriety, for better or worse,
Mhm.
is linked to the name Markle.
You're
She
right.
was Meghan Markle on Deal or No Deal. She was
Uh-huh.
Meghan Markle in Suits. She was Meghan Markle. I haven't been on IMDb to see exactly what it is that she
I've covered
lists.
a couple of her movies, but
Yes,
yes, Hallmark
yes,
movies and things, yeah.
yes. So all of a sudden now she's Meghan Sussex. So here's my theory on what's going on.
Okay.
Um, there's been a lot of talk about the possibility of a divorce.
Mhm.
If and when that happens, I think she is laying the groundwork for a tie back to the only thing that has really and truly brought her long term notoriety, which is
Mhm.
the British royal family. As much as she seems to despise the British royal family and as much negative commentary as she has put out there on the British royal family, she still realizes, okay, well, this might be a meal ticket at some point. So I'm going to take the last name of my children
Mhm.
and the way that she characterizes that in the series as well about it's our little family. Well,
Mhm.
basically what she's saying is I'm disassociating myself from the British royal family, although of course I am going to keep the Duchess title because
That's right.
that's transactionally convenient for me. And
Uh-huh.
I'm also going to cut ties to my father
Uh-huh.
and my half siblings, all of whom I apparently dislike intensely, none of whom I invited to my wedding. So I think that's what she's up to. I think it's all part and parcel of the day that she ends up getting a divorce.
Mhm.
If in fact that happens, which a lot of people think it will, the day when she decides she wants to write a memoir, that'll be really interesting too. Because if I walked into a bookstore and I saw that there was a book and the author's name was Meghan Sussex, I'd be like, I don't know Meghan Sussex. What's that
Good
about?
point.
If it was Meghan Markle,
Mhm.
I might pay a little bit of attention. I still wouldn't buy it probably,
Yeah.
because I know the Megxit YouTubers would
That's
handle
right.
all the reading and digestion for me. I could just flip it on in the middle of the night and watch it. So anyway, that's my theory.
I think you're spot on. You stole my answer exactly. I think
Oh,
you're
sorry.
so spot. No, I'm teasing. You and I have talked about this offline. I'm on the exact same page on every single bit. I think she loves it because it's always a tie to the royal family, no matter how much she despises them. It's her moneymaker. It's her future. It's her everything. Like it's all she's got. And
Yeah.
it's her cutting ties because say what you will about whatever you decide about her family, it's gotta hurt dad. It's gotta hurt dad. It does.
Oh,
It just
horrible,
has to hurt dad. That's
horrible.
horrible. So and she does it. So, I'm sure Dory is laughing about it too, you know? So, yeah, it's just I think you're spot on all of it. The interesting thing to me that you and I have talked about that I'd like to bring up here is I think she's also gonna use it to play victim in the future. Victim in terms of Harry and I split, so now all I have is the name Sussex to share with my children, and victim in the future if the press still can't get my name right. That's
Yeah.
obviously the ist words. And the point that I want to make is I will not get her name right because she cannot get Catherine's name right. Catherine is on record as preferring the name Catherine. I get why regular people still call her Kate. I get it. It's over,
I do it all the time. I do it all the
it
time.
happens.
Yes,
I don't because I'm not a journalist, but I'm somehow related to that. I report on it. So to me, it's important that I call her Catherine. That's just a personal choice. But I'm not being obtuse like Meghan. I know who you're talking about when you say Kate. I know who you mean.
of course.
But Meghan seems to do this on purpose where she puts out these things. And when she talks about her, she calls her Kate. Catherine signs her name Catherine. As a sister-in-law, you'd think you'd get that right. Obviously, Meghan doesn't care, but I'm saying typically you get that right. If you know your sister-in-law prefers, whatever Jennifer, you're going to call her Jennifer or Jen or whatever she prefers. So my point is, she cannot get Catherine's name right, but she is going to use this and be like, see, they do this to both of us. Or see, it's towards against me because they can't get my name right. I just think there's a
Yeah.
lot of layers to this. That's just my opinion on that.
Yes. Well, she is in my opinion, a professional grievance collector and a
Yes.
professional victim. And that's
Yes.
where she makes her stock and trade. And that's what I think perpetuates the love fest, I think, from a lot of her fans, the Sussex squad, the Sugars, whatever.
Yeah.
I think they identify with someone who is a professional / perpetual victim who they can look at and rally behind and say, oh, look at poor Meghan. She's being so mistreated and she had such a rough go. And nobody told her the words to the British national anthem and nobody told her how to curtsy and nobody told her not to walk in front of the Queen. And they wouldn't let her wear, on and on and on and on. It just doesn't stop. I think it's part and parcel of her professional victim, as in the words of the Spotify executive, grifter.
Yes.
That's, I think, in my opinion, that's what she is all about. And she realizes, I think it's, again, to go back to Brittany's characterization, the vapid and vacuous, I think deep in her heart, she knows, I'm talking about Meghan, that she does not have a lot to offer. And that's why she is so over the top with her wardrobe and the cost of her clothes and the cost of her house and all of this other stuff. If you have a degree of self-confidence, if you have a degree of self-assuredness and an awareness of how others are perceiving you, you don't do all that stuff. You really don't do it. And that's why, as I said, you go to a TV show like Succession, and if you really dig and really scrape and claw, you can find out what it was that the characters were wearing. But it's the quiet luxury, as we said before. She reminds me of somebody who has won the lottery and has no concept of how to spend the money other than to make this ostentatious display of everything that she's doing. I mean, it's like, the people that you see walking down the street and they have a shirt on and it has Gucci written across the front of it in letters that big.
Right.
Meghan is not far removed from that. She really is not. She just does not understand what it means to have wealth, to have affluence, to have class, to be a sophisticated person. She just doesn't get it, as far as I'm able to see, in my opinion.
I think you're spot on. I think it's so funny that you're bringing up Succession too. I don't know if you're aware because I talk about this in my videos. I love the show Succession, and one of the characters in there, Siobhan. I really have this feeling. I've said it from the beginning. Siobhan was known to wear a lot of beige, but the difference being it was always perfectly tailored and perfectly cut and fit her beautiful curves and all that. Like she looked great constantly, just very expensive looking. I don't know how else to say it, just expensive looking because everything fit her body perfectly. Perfect fabrics, perfect tailor, perfect steam, perfect everything. Meghan saw that, internalized beige equals wealth. That's it. like, just
Yeah.
messed it up along the way. I just had this feeling that I just had this feeling because that was Siobhan's color. I just think that's interesting.
Yeah.
Um,
And
yeah.
you know, and since you mentioned that, the thought occurs to me too in terms of chess versus checkers and ability to see around corners and so forth.
Mhm.
Somebody said the other day that there was an outfit that she wore when they were down in Colombia where apparently she was sweating. And
Yes,
and
I
the
talked
the
about that
oh, was that
in the
you? Okay.
silk
Okay.
skirt. Yes.
Yes. And it's like, you're in the jungle.
Yeah.
Why would you not contemplate the fact that you're going to sweat? And why would you wear something that is going to not absorb any of the sweat, and in fact is so thin that the sweat is going to go right through it and everybody's going to see it? For somebody who is as camera aware as Meghan is, there's the camera. Oh, I found it.
Right.
You know, as
Smile.
we've
Yeah.
all seen. Yeah,
Yeah.
right.
You're right.
Anybody else? Okay. Hi, I see you. Ha ha. You know, um,
You're exactly right.
again, it's
Mhm.
just back to the whole, people, sophisticated people think of that in the
Yeah.
same way. It's no different than, I'm not going to wear this fleece
Uh-huh.
when I'm dealing with spaghetti sauce. Not
Right.
going to happen. Not going to
Yes.
happen.
Right.
And
Right.
that's just dumb, silly me
Uh-huh.
thinking, gee, I don't want to deal with that. I don't have to want to wipe stuff off. I don't want to
Mhm.
have to, you know, oh
Not
geez.
if, but when I get stuff on me, I don't want it to be on
Yes.
my white shirt.
Yes.
Yes.
I've got to figure out, can I put this in the washing machine or do I have to
Exactly.
send it to the dry cleaners? Or,
That's right.
who
You're
needs that?
you're so right. You're so spot on. Exactly. Another point that you brought up that I meant to circle back to, and that is the Sussex squad, the sugars, the mediocre mafia. Something I always say about them that I bring up, and you keep, you'd brought up again that how they follow her, and I always say, I wonder truly if they worked for her for 1 hour, if they would still follow her. If we got to see the real Megan and then work for her, there's just no way. There's no way. I
That's,
don't think she could pretend to be nice for an hour even.
that's a really compelling question. And I agree. It would
Mhm,
be be a very, very interesting exercise. And you and I have talked about, even at the beginning of in the trailer for the With Love Meghan,
mhm. That's
there's
not
that
how you
one
say
scene
that,
where she,
John.
what's that?
I said, "That's not how we say that, John. With love,
Oh,
Megan." Go ahead, please.
I'm sorry, I'm not as polished as you are, Jen. I apologize. My,
Go ahead.
forgiveness. But when she's at the beginning of the video and she goes, "Let's go,"
Yeah.
the tone of her voice, it just reminds me so much of the scene when she was getting out of the car at the chapel or at the cathedral or church or
Yes.
wherever it was for her wedding, and the footman or whoever it was tried to offer her a hand, and she
Yep.
just
Back
and
then. Yeah. Mhm.
and she has, again, that it's and it's the same reaction as, my name is Sussex.
Right.
Why do you keep calling me Markle, Meghan Markle? My name is Meghan Sussex. It's that same. There's a there's a
There's a
someday
right
some
way to handle it and a wrong way. She did it so wrong. Yes, please.
and there someday somebody is going to write a book
Uh-huh.
about the Megans, the Jada Pinkett Smiths, the
Mhm.
Amber Heards, the Blake Lively's. There's a there's a way to be a female leader
Mhm.
that's very effective
Mhm.
and very acceptable and not off-putting. And I'm not just talking about to men. I'm talking about to anybody who
Right.
happens to be
Sure.
within earshot
Uh-huh.
or who happens to see this.
Right.
Um, and the loud, bossy, um, and with an edge, the sort of sharp tone of voice. Um, why do you
Mhm.
keep calling? Again,
Yes.
somebody's going to write a book. You were talking about psychology being of interest to you. Somebody's going to write a book, and they're going to say, "This is where the boss babe girl boss mindset lost the plot.
Yeah.
And it's going to be very, very interesting. And I think people have an intuitive notion of that thus far.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's going to be further developed because they're going to be more, there'll be more Blake Lively's, there'll be more Meghans that emerge over time.
Yeah.
But it's just that, you can be effective as a leader, you can be effective as a member of society, but when you get that, again, that edge, that need to dominate everything all the time. And so again, back to your question about what would it be like to work for
Yeah.
someone like that. And I will say as well, I don't think Harry is immune from the same sort of mindset. There was a line
Sure.
when he was doing the New York Times interview a couple of weeks or months ago, and the presenter asked him a question, and Harry got this very sharp tone of voice and says, "I told you we weren't going to speak about that."
Exactly.
And there were so many other different ways that he could have responded to that,
Yeah.
that I don't think Harry is immune from the criticism either about, this is just not how you relate to other people.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I
So,
think you're spot on. I think so. Yeah, I would actually even pull out further than just the female of it all and just say, just don't be an a-hole. Just
yeah,
be a nice person. If you
yeah,
accidentally called me Sarah, I'm probably going to tease you as my friend, but I'm not going to jump down your throat. I
yeah,
might gently remind you, "Hey, it's Jen," like
yeah,
whatever.
right, right, right,
But I know
right,
who you're talking about. I just get stuck on stuff like that. You know
yes.
who I'm talking about if I call you Bob, like
Yeah, right, 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 right.
I
You're
accidentally
absolutely,
have sent you a text message meant for somebody else. You didn't blow up at me. You're just like, "Oh, hey, goofball, that was for somebody else." Like it
yes.
happens. I just don't understand going through life like looking to get offended and "Roar, how dare you?" It's just like,
Well, you make a great point.
mhm,
If you are looking for some sort of fuel, to use a term that H.G. Tudor uses all the time in his
right.
very interesting videos, if you are looking for uh, to collect grievances, as
Mhm,
I talked about a few minutes ago, and something that, if that's the mindset, if that's the way that you address the world,
mhm.
then that becomes your default response. And it's not like,
Mm.
what are you thinking? My name's not Bob.
Yeah,
My name's not Susie.
right.
What's going on here? Ha ha ha.
Yeah,
But
exactly. "You been
there
drinking,
are there
John?"
are
Yeah.
yes,
Yeah,
there are dozens of other ways to
sure.
respond to somebody like Mindy Kaling, or
Yeah.
to deal with in a professional environment that not only involves the way that you talk, it's
Mhm.
like with the tone of voice and the
Yes.
edge on your voice, the words you use, the um, amount of emotion that you attach
Mhm.
to the conversation. It's again back to the whole "let's go,
Yes. Not a
out,
very
out."
likable personality. Yeah, yeah,
No, it's not. It's
yeah.
not. And people have a very, very finely tuned sense of, am I comfortable in this environment with this
Mhm,
person? Again, do we know? Do we like? Do we trust?
mhm,
That type of let's go. That is something that erodes trust,
mhm.
because you never know if that tone of voice, it puts everybody on defensive. You never know if that tone of voice and that sharp tongue and that edge is going to be trotted out
Mhm.
in a split second and applied to you.
You're right.
And then when it does get applied to you, all of a sudden you feel like, you know what, this is not worth my time and effort. I don't care what they're paying me. I don't care how much I like my work. I don't like the people that I'm working for, and I'm
Mhm.
going to hit the exit. And we've seen that. I don't know how many people it is. I think allegedly 20 people
Something like that, yeah.
have departed from Archwell.
Mhm,
We know of people at the palace in
mm,
London or wherever it was that they apparently rubbed some, as they were talking about on 60 Minutes a couple of weeks ago, that caused people to write emails and say, you know what, there's a problem here with the way that this person is interacting with the collective whole, and it's causing friction and discomfort. It's not for the greater good. We need to address this and do something.
You're
But
spot on.
I tried so hard. Nobody asked me if I was okay. Nobody told me how to curtsy to the Queen. Nobody told me the words to the British national anthem.
So flash forward then in a couple months from now, when people are like talking about what a disaster they're already talking about, but you know what I mean? What a disaster this thing was. It's going to be, oh, nobody told me that people don't care about dried flowers. Netflix made me do that, whatever. It'll be
Yeah,
somebody else's fault, I'm sure.
right. No, I agree with you 100%. And it'll be very interesting. And the people that are, the collective Megxit community on Talk TV or on YouTube, or Kinsey Schofield does an enormous amount of content talking about the Sussexes, the Duke and Duchess.
We
There's
don't
going to
use
be
their titles here.
oh,
Just kidding.
sorry, hang
No,
my
see,
head in.
I'm being like Megan. We don't do that.
Yeah, exactly. Well, the Meghan and Harry of it all. It's going
Yeah.
to be very interesting to see what they do. I don't think, and they have. Um, there's a line in one of my favorite James Bond movies. I know you're a James Bond fan.
Yeah.
There's a line in For Your Eyes Only when Melinda Havelock, who is the sort of main character Bond girl in the movie, she gets tangled up with one of the bad guys, played by Julian Glover, I think is Christados, I think is the guy's name, and they're tied up, and she's kind of running her mouth at this guy, and he's like, you, Miss Havelock, you have shot your last bolt. And I think of that in the context of Harry and Meghan, because someday the world is going to collectively look at Harry and Meghan and say, oh, and the last bolt, this character, Melinda Havelock, she has this habit of dispatching people with a bow and arrow. So that's where this comment comes from. You've shot your last bolt. In other words, you're not going to shoot a bow and arrow and pierce anybody going forward. There's going to come a day at some point, I think probably sooner than later, when the world is going to collectively say to Meghan and Harry, you guys have shot your last bolt. You don't have any more inside baseball stories to tell about the royal family. At least not, you may have the stories, but nobody's going to pay attention to them in any meaningful way. And Meghan, you had your shot with this cooking series. People were even saying, I mean, when the trailer came out, they were like, basically you've shot your last bolt on this. The trailer is vacuous and vapid. This is a nothing burger. And then people went to watch it and they were like, yep, we saw this coming. The trailer, where you've the best you've got.
Exactly.
The best you've got. And people said,
what is
what am I missing? What am I missing? Did I not see anything? So anyway, they've shot their last bolt.
They've shot their last.
And they don't have any more stories to sell that anybody would pay any attention to. Maybe if all of a sudden Harry came out and said, you know what, don't let your kids use drugs. That'll be interesting too, just as an aside. Somebody said that the other day to me. It's like when Archie and Lily become teenagers, what's a conversation that their father is going to have with them about drugs?
Oh gosh.
Especially if they have a rough childhood.
That's right.
And who doesn't, who doesn't remember what it was like to be 13, 14, 15 years old? And I mean, you're just, you just want to just angry at the entire world. Do you think that their father is going to sit them down and say, hey, well, listen, you need to mellow out a little bit. Let me roll you a little something here, and we'll just go out on the patio and and
Yes.
I just want to make one other point in that context too. Something else somebody said to me, I thought the other day that was very interesting. And again, this is somebody's speculation, this is opinion, all of that, blah,
Sure.
blah, blah. How many couples do you know where only one of the parties in the relationship
Uh,
is a drinker,
uh,
or is a heavy drinker,
uh-huh.
or is a smoker,
Right.
or likes to go to a casino, to Atlantic City or to Las Vegas or
Right.
wherever, or only one of them likes to hike in the woods.
Mhm.
I find it very interesting to just contemplate what the real Meghan and the real Harry are like. I
Good
find it
point.
hard to believe that Harry does not share some of Meghan's unflattering personality traits. Find it
Mhm.
very hard to believe that Meghan does not share some of Harry's, what do I want
Enjoyment of
to,
substances.
yes, or whatever. And again, I'm not saying
Caffeine
that
or anything. Yeah.
and I'm not saying that she does or doesn't,
Sure.
and he does or doesn't, but it's just an interesting thing to contemplate, again, in the context of what is it in couples
Yeah.
that bond them together, and it's a shared like of activity and of shared mindset, and we certainly know that they share a common victimhood, because
Right.
they've really milked that hard, as we know, and we've
Mhm.
seen the letters to the NYPD about the prince is convinced that there's a conspiracy and that he's being ignored, and we want arrests, and
Exactly.
we've seen all of that.
Right.
So
Right.
it's just, there's so much to contemplate. And people say to me all the time, like, well, why do you keep thinking about the two of them? And because they're, and why do these YouTubers? I mean, I said to you, Jan, the other day, every morning I wake up, there are new Megxit YouTubers talking about the series, talking about, everything to do with them. They're a source of fascination.
They
They're a
are.
source of fascination. I'll just say this too,
Okay.
because if you've read Macbeth, by Shakespeare's Macbeth, if you have seen the movie Scarface, there is there's a moment at the end of Scarface when they're in a dining room at a very nice restaurant, and Tony Montana, played by Al Pacino, he's drunk and probably stoned and everything else, and Michelle Pfeiffer's character, um, I forget her name, but she's sitting there at the table, and they start to have an argument.
Mhm.
And at some point, he hurls a really nasty insult to her, and she throws a glass of wine or water at him and says, "How dare you speak to me that way?" And the scene ends before she walks out. She says, "Don't you understand, Tony? We're losers. We're
Mm.
losers. We had the world by the tail, and look what we've become. We have blown it in every conceivable way, and don't you see, we're losers."
Mhm.
And I think of that so often. And again, it harkens back to Shakespeare. Scarface, the screenplay is very much in the style of Macbeth, where at the end of it, um, and at the end of it, um, Macbeth, I think his only friend is. It's been a while since I read it, but I think Falstaff is Falstaff is
Mhm.
basically this drunk, kind of small-minded person, and Macbeth's only friend. I know you'll correct me in the comments. I'm sure somebody's already typing away, but the same thing. Um, Michelle Pfeiffer's character says to
Mm.
Tony, "My only friend left in the world is, I can't remember. It's Tony. It's something the pig." Frank the
Mm.
pig or something. Anyway, it's basically the security guard. She's like, "My only friend left in the world is my security guard."
Mm.
And you think back to some of the comments about Harry. It's like, who's Harry's best friend? Oh, it's a security guy.
Yeah. Meghan's
And
first guest on her show was her makeup artist, you know?
absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. And
Huh.
and that you make a great point.
Mm.
The Meghan and Harry show collectively over the years is a Shakespearean tragedy. I don't think
Mhm.
there's any question about that.
I
That's why people love Macbeth. It's a
Yeah.
tragedy. It's an insight into what in the world is wrong with these people.
Yeah.
They're killing each other, and I'm not saying Harry and Meghan have killed anybody. Don't get
No, no.
all upset. But there's backstabbing, literally and figuratively, and there is turning your back on the people in the world who could be most useful to you as
Mhm.
friends, as confidants, as people whose company you enjoy just for the sake of company.
Yeah,
It's
sure.
exactly the same in a lot of ways as Scarface, as the Meghan and Harry show. It's a tragedy. People, what
Yeah.
kind of a play is Macbeth? It's a tragedy.
Yep.
It is a
Yep.
tragedy.
Uh-huh.
And we're seeing that unfold in real time. Every morning when you flip on YouTube, somebody has called that out in another
Mhm.
way, shape, or form.
Yeah, never ending. Yeah.
Right, right, right.
Well, John, as always, it's been such a pleasure to have you. I appreciate you. Any final thoughts as we wrap this up? You feel good about everything? I mean,
I,
everything we talked about?
I do. And like I said before, I make the usual caveat that everything that I've said is my opinion. I know you always say that as well, and
Yes.
that's the case. Um, and I haven't said anything that might be construed as legal advice, but if I have, it shouldn't be taken as legal advice because
Should
that's not
not
the way
be
it's
legal advice.
intended. And I don't have a representation agreement with anybody who's watching this, and I'm not looking for that. But it's um, it's so interesting to watch, especially as you said, as somebody for you, Jen, somebody who is interested in psychology,
Mhm.
and I in a certain way, I feel bad for
Mhm.
Meghan and Harry. They don't know any better. I feel terrible for their children.
Yeah.
If I had to guess, I would say that the the water ahead for their
Mm.
children is not going to be smooth sailing. That's just conjecture on my part, but
Sure.
um,
Mm.
the past is a prelude to the present. There's no question about that. And
Mhm.
if you extrapolate from where they've been and where they're going, I uh, you know
Yep.
I,
Mm.
I hope it is just limited to a matter of these people are not well liked. I hope nothing worse than that happens to
Yeah,
anybody in that family
of
because
course.
as we've said, they're human
Yeah,
beings.
they're
Harry and
human.
Meghan
Yeah,
are parents.
yeah.
Um, they deserve happiness. They deserve to live their life,
Mhm.
as best they can.
Sure.
But they certainly don't make it easy on themselves, I don't think.
They do not. And then as I do I have to wrap this up on
Yeah, yeah,
but I do have one last thing, which is can I sue because they've made me cringe so hard? I'd like to sue them. Can I do that? Just kidding.
yeah. I don't think that's going to work.
Damn
Sorry,
it.
that's
It's
just my
so
opinion.
bad.
But yeah,
I would
unfortunately,
really
there's
like
a
to sue somebody for making me watch this crap.
yeah, there's a thing called an off switch that is on most phones and in remote controls and television, smart TVs. That would be my suggestion is to look for that off switch. It's on there somewhere. I promise.
I always like that attorney Ben Chew from the Johnny Depp case. I wonder if he would take me on as a client. Maybe he could help me sue for cringe.
I'll ask him the next time I see him. But
Okay.
because I do bump into him in DC once in a while. But
Perfect.
yeah,
Okay, tell him your friend Jen is a fan and would like to know if she could sue for cringe.
yeah.
But, where can we find you, John? We'd love to follow you. I talk about it a lot on your, Instagram. Is that still the best way to find you is through your Instagram?
Yeah, that's probably the right place. Witherspoon, DC, and I've promised this time I'm serious about it. I will throw some new pictures up there. So the people that are already hooked in, you'll see those soon, and new people can look and see the carefully curated content. I won't be able to curate the pictures as well as Megan does on her Instagram, but I'll do my best to put some interesting stuff up. So look for that.
I expect lots of sprinkled flowers on your pictures, John. That's what I expect from you.
You might see some dead flowers.
Oh,
That'll be the best I can do, I'm afraid.
you're elevated. Okay.
Right. Right.
As always, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for coming on. It's a pleasure to talk to you. I'll be bugging you behind the scenes like, can you believe what they're up to? That's just what I do. So
Yeah, I hear you.
as they
I
do
hear you.
more crazy things, I'll invite you back and we'll talk more about it because you always have such a fun take on things. I actually secretly hope for more fruit rainbow type things because that was some of the funniest texts I got from you was, what is this fruit rainbow? What is going on? Why is she cutting the blueberries? So,
Right. Well, and the mini fruit rainbow,
yeah.
that really, I had, like I said, I had to go lie down when I saw that because I was just overwhelmed.
That's right. Well, thank you as always, John. We look forward to having you back very soon and we will talk to you again soon. Bye,
Thanks
guys.
so much, Jen. Take care.
Yeah. Bye-bye.